Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei slay all devils and Harem with Ingvild? Before I start, please do support for more awesome content, and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the Hajime066 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story. Link in the description. The bond forged between a master and his servant, a heroic spirit, is nothing but special and precious. It transcends humans' knowledge, and even the spirits doesn't know the full extent of its power. Increasing one's power to an almost unimaginable height, closing a long distance in a single second with a single command, bending reality to allow the inexistences to exist. This is a story about a man who once forged bonds tougher than the strongest metal in the world, and his story after his reincarnation. In a battlefield where two people just watched a shield where someone should have been there, but that person is gone, including another person who disappeared while given both a smile. The cry of a girl can be heard as she couldn't believe she lost them. The cry of a girl can be heard as she couldn't believe she lost them. Ritsuka Mashu Dr. Roman no. A girl with orange hair was looking at the shield before someone walk up and pick up the shield despite him holding a sword in his other hand. Issei. The young man named Issei held both weapons before the outfit he was wearing is known as a mystic code started to radiate power, as his eyes glowed green and were that of a reptile. The young man named Issei held both weapons before the outfit he was wearing is known as a mystic code started to radiate power, as his eyes glowed green and were that of a reptile. Ritsuka no Issei, don't use your dragon core, you won't survive, she yelled before a person showed up to protect Ritsuka. Issei, I'm counting on you, Amiya, he said before taking some steps forward. Edmund, let's go, he said, rushing forward as he was avoiding all of Goishia's attacks, blocking with the shield and cutting with his sword, accompanied by several people who he fought with. These people were servants that Issei and Ritsuka who formed a type of bond together, as they all deal damage to the demon god pillars and Goishia himself, until finally Issei, thanks to his servants, help him get to fight Goishia alone. Goishia, why do you not submit to me? Why do you keep fighting so hard? He yelled at Issei, who keeps hitting the shield. Issei, he begins to remember his childhood, where he never met his mother, and his father experimented on him with a dragon core, until the memories of him, Ritsuka, Mash, and everyone appeared in his head. That's obvious to live, he yelled as he stabbed the shield into Goishia's chest. But in cost of Issei's life, as Issei had a wound near his heart as he tries to return to Ritsuka's side. However, Issei fell to the floor as a pool of his own blood poured out of his chest. Issei, this is bad, I'm losing too much blood, I guess this is it. My end, he said with a smile in his face, before the figure of Ritsuka and all the servants came approaching him. Issei, that right? I was happy to be able to be by all of you. If I could make a wish, I wish that we could see each other again, and you too, Mashu, he said. His eyes lost their light as the weapon he carried disappeared along with a green light of dust into the unknown. Ritsuka/female servants Issei, the voice of many girls can be heard as their cries can be heard. We can see an individual waking up in a panic as he begins to touch his forehead, as this person's name is Issei Hayadu. Issei, that dream again. Issei, that dream again. How many times was that? And this time I could barely see their faces. Ritsuka, who is that? Why do I? He was about to speak, but he was interrupted by a female voice. Issei, is everything okay? Spoke a girl who is worried who slept next to him. It was a beautiful foreign girl who appears to be in her late teens with a whimsical aura. She has long purple hair and orange eyes. Issei, yeah, I'm okay, Ingvild. Issei, yeah, I'm okay, Ingvild. I just had that dream again, although this time it's different, he said, reassuring the girl with a smile. Ingvild, oh, I see. I'm just glad to know that you're alright, she said before one movements around the bed begin to move to reveal other girl. I see, where did you go? Spoke a beautiful young woman with long, black hair, light blue eyes with a trained yet voluptuous figure with large S. She had a black nightgown. This is Lizel Himikami. Oh, there you are, she said with a smile, seeing Issei. She said with a smile, seeing Issei. Issei, aha. Lizel, you are awake, he said to his other friend as Issei began to go to the closet to get his clothes. Well, I'm going to get dressed for the test to become high class. Ingvild, good luck, Issei, she said, showing a smile. Lizel, yeah, but we don't need to worry since you'll pass easily, she said. Have full trust on Issei. After hearing them, Issei smiled as he begins to walk out of their apartment before rushing past the busy streets of the capital of Lilith in the underworld. underworld testing facility. In a huge room that encompasses more than 500 people was at its maximum capacity. Among the crowd most were men and women of human appearance, the rest were beings made of stone, people with pointed ears, with rainbow eyes, among some others. These were devils. These devils were laughed and chatted in groups as if they knew each other, others were left alone calmly, and especially some were on the chairs in the corners of the living room made of a lot of nerves. Attention, examined. The written tests have finished. They can go on to review their grades. Those who have passed will go to the practical test, and those who do not go away right away. Faced with the announcement that everyone has been waiting for, everyone got up from their places and leaves to arrive in front of a wooden plank with a piece of paper. On the paper there were lists with the names of each of those present, and next to each one there would be a word in black, meaning that it goes to the next test, and if it has a word in red it meant that it failed. Immediately, all the laughter and calm they showed previously changed to complaints and regrets. Devil, again I failed in the written part. Devil, if I didn't approve then no one should have approved. I'm sure I answer everything correctly. Devil, damn, my clan spent years helping me and I have failed. What am I supposed to do now? While they were practically drowning in frustration, disappointment, and anger, Issei, who took the exam, got up from his seat. After several minutes he goes to see his destiny. Issei passed among the crowd with great difficulty. When he arrived in front of the board he stayed looking for his name for a while, with every second making him more and more nervous. Only after a long time of searching did he find his name, and next to him there was a phrase of a certain color that made him open his eyes wide. Issei, I pass. His words, in the sea of voices of hundreds of people, were suppressed to its highest point. Even those who were next to him did not hear him. Devil examiner, well, please shut up, shouted a man with his patience on the floor when he heard so many complaints. If they did not approve it is because you're all useless and so arrogant that you do not realize your mistakes. Now leave so that those who approved can continue. Devil 6, I don't accept it. It is impossible that only 2% has passed more than 500. As soon as someone shouted that, the rest seemed to wake up from a detail, which was that there was only 2 names with the text approved in black. But being the only 2 out of 500 who took the test was too rare. Devil, if from the beginning I was going to pass, then this test is a farce. It is obvious that only the demons of the important clans can get to approve. Devil examiner, oh really? Then I will gladly inform you that whoever approved, the only one out of other devil that got acceptable grade among more than 500 is a fairly young reincarnated human. Devil 5, a human? Did I lose to a reincarnate? Damn. That's disgusting. Devil 7, how am I supposed to lose against someone like that? Losing against a reincarnated demon, my family will be very upset with me. Devil examiner, now that you know it, everyone leave before I forbid you to take the test again to be a high-ranking devil, he said, holding a notebook and a pen. Faced with the threat of never taking the test again, everyone ran away. After all, the dream of all devils of pure blood or reincarnated is always to be able to reach higher ranks and enjoy all its advantages. When all the disapproved left, only Issei and a white-haired boy was left with the examiner gaze fixed on the board with glazed eyes. The examiner of the written test gave an irritated sigh before walking towards the 2. As they were the only one, it was obvious that they are the only one who approved. Devil examiner, Hayata Issei Somali Gray. Gray, yes, he said with a confident smile. Issei, yes sir, he said with a smile of excitement. Devil examiner, congratulations on passing the written exam. Now follow me to take the practical test, he said as Gray nodded, but Issei was curious. Issei, practice test. Devil examiner, of course, you should know that to rise in rank you must take the written test and the practical test, knowledge and skill. We must test those 2 parts before passing the promotion. Issei, but it wasn't supposed to be necessary for me to take the practice, but sure, why not, he said with a shrug. Devil examiner, what did you say? He asked, turning around with veins on his forehead about to explode. Issei, well, you see, he said, taking a piece of paper out of his pants. The man took the paper in his hands fiercely and proceeded to read its contents with a strong frown. The more he read, his frown lightened until his face only showed one of total surprise. Devil examiner, the second method of promotion, it's incredible that someone has achieved it in such a short time, he said, lowering the paper to stare at Issei with astonishment. Issei, yeah, but I don't mind. So what's the practice test about, he said, wanting to get this over with. Devil examiner, well, it's skill, and since you and Mr. Gray are the only ones who pass, it's natural to put you against him. he said as Gray begins to laugh. Gray, so all I have to do is to defeat this human reincarnate and become high-ranking devil. It will be so easy, he said very cocky while assessing Issei's strength before laughing. My golem will only need one punch. As for Issei, he started to grip his fist before the image of a man with a red coat came to his mind as Issei and that man were cooking as the man tells him something. Issei, then let's go, devil dog, he said as Gray begins to grit his teeth. Underworld testing field. In a battle area with a protected barrier protecting the judges as the two fighters were in a small arena that they use for testing similar to the rating games. As it begins, Gray starts creating a golem the size of a house made of earth as it walks slowly towards Issei as he smirks. As the judges think that Issei was using his sword that in his sheath, but instead Issei made two swords that appeared in his hands. As Issei begins to run and avoiding all their attacks pretty easily before tossing the black and white short sword into their bodies. Gray, how many of those swords do you have? No matter, that won't work. My golem is strong enough just to deal with any of the sharpest blades around. Issei continued to ignore them before thinking it was enough before he disappeared in a flash as Issei stood on the back of the golem before placing his hands over it. Issei, let's finish this already. Issei, let's finish this already. Burst, he said as a blue line appeared near his neck. As all of a sudden, the small swords around its body began to become huge that they stabbed into the ground. This caused everyone to be in shock as no one could believe what just happened. As Issei began to pull his sword out, as Issei bursts toward Gray and stabs his shoulders as he begins to panic and starts letting a scream. The judges themselves were impressed and didn't know what they say. They had questions. How did he not cast any magic? Why was there no circles? How did he do that? What kind of training has this kid been through? These questions keep piling up before Issei, who begins to walk towards the judges, leaving behind Gray, who is passed out foaming from the mouth, scared shitless for being defeated by a reincarnated devil. Issei, excuse me, but could you put your stamp? I need to verify that I passed the test, he asked politely. A few minutes later, Issei left the 4-story building where the test of ascension to a high-class devil was carried out with a huge smile. Looking at the two signatures that were on the paper, an emotion and pride swirled in his chest. Issei, hee, Ingvild and Liesel are going to be excited tonight. He commented to himself, hee, I'd better hurry. I want to have my piece as soon as possible. He said, keeping the paper and run away. The road was long, very long. It took the train that travels through all the territories. It took a few hours, but the excitement of finally having his own peerage, all the fatigue. Issei entered a gigantic building with more than 7 floors and who knows how many underground. Upon arriving at the reception desk, a girl attended him, while her partner attended to someone else. Devil girl, reason to visit? She asked, typing several things on the computer. Due to the technological advancement of humans, the devils decided to implement part of their technology in the underworld, making many things much more practical and faster. Issei, I've come to request a complete set of evil pieces. Upon hearing it, the girl raised her head and was surprised at how young he looked. Instantly she believed that Issei did not know some things about the world. Devil girl, the request for the creation of evil pieces is only allowed for high-ranking demons for the creation of their peerages. Lower-ranked demons have forbidden this. She spoke until Issei showed her the paper he had saved. Immediately, the girl's face was in shock for several seconds. Please take a seated, until your name is called, was what she said by slowly typing the computer. Issei went to sit in a soft armchairs. It was not the first time Issei was taken as a low-ranking devil because of his appearance. In fact, it was nothing strange. The strange thing is that he is a high-ranking devil at such a young age without him being part of some important clan. He waited about 10 minutes for an adult man to approach him who took him to a room with a machine in the center. Devil man, please put your demonic energy in the device. I will tell you when it will be enough, he said, going to the side of the machine and touching several buttons. Issei approached the device as he started doing flowing and transferring of power. Magecraft, transferring the magic energy that he can gather around him and demonic energy. This was pretty easy for him since he's been practicing this on Jules, and while being here in the underworld, there's so much demonic energy he can store it all and never run out because of the amount of magic here. Issei, mind, I still don't know why no one knows Magecraft. It makes this really easy that I can fill this up forever. He thought since he's been trying to teach this to Ingvild and Liesel, but they didn't get it at first. ignoring what's happening outside as the man started panicking on how much Issei was pouring inside. Devil man, hey, that's enough, he shouted at Issei, who is distracted and stopped noticing the gaze of the man who had a shock face. Issei sighed in relief but also felt quite guilty that he kept going without realizing. Devil man, we will transfer your pieces to you in a few hours, you are free to do what you want. He notified Issei by touching more things in the machine before accompanying him to the exit. Once outside, he went straight to the apartment hotel where he and Ingvild, Liesel were staying for the last few days when Issei started the exam. Issei begins to lay down on the bed as he had his sword beside him while looking at the ceiling as the girls saw him lay down, decided to get dinner started before having smiles that he completed his goal. Issei, mind, all my hard work has got me to where I am today. Thanks to whatever those flashbacks or visions on seeing. I picked up this magecraft, not to mention these fighting skills, it's like they're being imprinted into my mind. Not to mention it took me a long time to get where I am. He said, beginning to remember what happened. Flashback 6 years ago. Issei was a simple human back then with nothing special about him other than being related to his grandfather named Ryoma Kurigane, a legendary samurai who fought and warred Japan in World War II. His mother Sakura Hayato, well, former Hayato, she's just called Sakura Kurigane. As for his father, Goro Hayato is nothing but a bastard who abandoned his mother and him for another family. But that not our main focus. We have to know how he got reincarnated and why these dream and his journey. He was 16 years old when he was reincarnated by a devil named Rias Gremory, who told him that she believed he had a power inside him that would help her and that she really needed that help. It was very sad for him that, in just a week, a damn week, she got rid of him by changing his owner as if he were a slave. And if it were worse, the one who he was given as a pawn was someone who did not want to stay in the human world, so he took Issei against his will to the underworld and forced him to fulfill 3 or 4 contracts a week. If he did not fulfill it, he punished him by beating him. He had companions, yes, but they were just as garbage as his king. They looked at him with arrogance and had fun when he was hit like an old street dog, in addition to always intimidating him thanks to his practically no magic reserve, making it impossible for him to use a teleportation spell. Under the demands of his new king, he ended up developing at least the ability to receive by a transfer spell the application papers. At night, cold and dark, Issei always misses his old life with his mother and grandfather and curses Rias for deceiving him with sweet words. His life was hell every day, but one day, all that changed. Issei started having flashbacks like that of movies, where he and others spend time together. Issei has no memory of them, or does he? But thanks to those memories gave him knowledge about the things he done named magecraft. He didn't know why, but he adapted to it easily and felt like his body reacted the same way. It was different when he tries training in the sword with his grandfather, but he felt like he found his style of fighting. In the second month with his new king brought a new member, a pawn, only that unlike Issei, who occupied a single pawn, he occupied 2. He had a sacred gear, something Issei wished he had with all his heart, and was the reason why he was reincarnated, but only for it to be discovered that he had none. The boy was kind and polite to Issei. Thanks to that, he often argued with his peerage partners and king for treating someone like Issei that way. Due to all the arguments they had, the king tormented him, causing him a hellish pain through the piece of pawn with the confidence that he would break and stop going against him. Unfortunately, just a week after starting those actions, the boy could no longer stand it. His hatred for his king and companions reached a point where he ended their lives, turning him into a stray devil and someone who would be corrupted by the power of his peace. That day Issei remembered it very clearly, and he was the only one who survived because they both suffered by their hands. Their last conversation was this: Issei, come on, Seiya. Just hold on a little bit longer, maybe that stupid king of ours has a phoenix tear or something that can help you. He said, throwing anything to find a cure. Seiya was a young man with black hair and ocean blue eyes with a cool black jacket with red outlines. He was currently holding his chest covered in blood as the right side of his body turns mutated. Seiya, it's okay, Issei, you done enough. I chose to go out this way. I just couldn't handle any more the way they treated you. I had enough. He said, looking at the sky. Issei, I know, just hold on, alright. Once you're all good, we'll just say they started fighting each other. Then we will go out and travel the world, and then we go back to our homes, to our families, and of course we will still be friends. Desperately looking for anything but nothing. Say, I like that. I'm really glad you're my friend Issei, but I have a request. He said, looking straight into Issei's eyes. Issei, if there's something I can do to help you, then sure, don't worry, everything will be alright. Seiya, kill me, was the only words he said as Issei start looking at him in shock. Issei, no, how can you tell me to do something like that? I can't do that, Seiya. Seiya, I don't want to go out like this. I don't want to be a monster. I want to die as a human. I may not be one, but still, I want to die as a human. I regretted ever agreeing to becoming a devil. This way of life, I don't want it. You know, a devil girl wanted me to help her, and she needed me to join her. I accepted. Once she saw my potential, she called me worthless. The life of a reincarnated devil isn't great. We have to struggle every day to satisfy our masters. We're nothing but tools, a simple chess piece and a board where our lives are on their hands. He said, looking into Issei's eyes. Issei, I know we're tools to them and not a person. That's why when I become a high-class devil, I'll treat my peerage like family and people I can depend on, and I want you to be there with me, Seiya. So please hold on just a little bit longer, he said, but his friend gave him a shake from the head. Seiya, sorry, but I can't. Just do me this favor: if you ever find a way to stop being a devil and be anything else, swear to me that you live your life the best you can for me. Never forget me, and if you ever get a sacred gear, make sure it's the strongest and be the strongest, and show these noble retards what humans are made of, he said, raising his fist for a fist pump. Issei, I swear to you, if I ever get a sacred gear, I'll make sure to train all day and be the strongest. If I ever get to be human again, I'll be a human with pride, or if I become something else, I'll make sure that never changes me because I'm human, he said, giving a fist pump before materializing a sword out of thin air. Seiya, that's a cool trick of yours. Doesn't use demonic energy, just your own. Stay cool for me, alright? He says, beginning to shut his eyes. Issei, yes, stay cool, he said before killing his best friend. And just like that, he was completely alone, not knowing how the hell to return to his house. His king's family kicked him out of the residence when they learned of what happened. Even if he had been a piece of a member of their clan, in no way would they keep such garbage like him. That left Issei wandered around the city with no one wanting to have him into their peerage or give him a job. The next day, in the distance in the sky, Issei saw a train appear. That's when he remembered his previous king mentioned something about a train that passes through all the territories of the underworld before passing through stations in the human world. The hope of returning home sprouted from his chest, and he hurried to chase the train to where it stopped. Issei didn't know how to go up or if stairs would appear, and he couldn't fly when he was bad at controlling his demon wings. Luckily, when he stood several seconds under the train, ropes came out of one of the doors that held him and took him inside. Issei was amazed by the interior of the train: furniture, glasses, carpets, all luxury things, especially the food. There was no one in sight, and as such he jumped to devour dishes and drinks like Goku while thanking the same train for putting it in his car, and that no one has appeared to reprimand him for eating without permission or without paying. He ended up sleeping on one of the sofas, and for the first time in days he slept very deeply until he woke up by the sound of the train warning that they arrived at a station, or that they were about to leave. When he got up and saw through the open doors, he saw human structures, not demons, so he ran out, climbed some stairs, and when he went outside, his eyes contracted and happiness had disappeared. A completely unknown place lay in front of his eyes with hundreds of people walking around him, going down and up the subway stairs. Thinking about the train, Issei quickly went down the stairs, looking with confusion at all the other people about why they were all there. But he soon understood everything. The train was different. Everything he saw when he left was different. The underworld train would not appear in front of normal humans. Trapped, he was completely trapped in a city where they apparently spoke English, not knowing how, or when he could meet the underworld train again, and even if he does, how will he know at which stop to get off to return home? With little money, he didn't give up and bought a charger for his phone and called his mother, who was worried sick about him and happy to know that Issei alive, but was shocked on his story as she made sure to never meet Rias in case she does something. Issei was happy on making contact with his family and left him with one choice: survive and get back home no matter what. Issei started doing contacts. When making contracts, he could ask for anything in exchange for his services. That way he would survive for the time frame. After distributing them to people who didn't end up throwing it a few steps away from receiving them, he stayed firm, staying in a cheap hotel. It was on the third day in that city when a small piece of paper appeared in front of him. Taking it in his hands with happiness, he turned it around to know the address of his contractor. It took him about 2 hours to arrive, and when he did, he made an effort to get the other to believe that he was the demon he requested, and not a vagabond. It was difficult, very difficult to fulfill his request with his abilities, but he succeeded, and in return the man gave him money. Issei will never forget it. If he hadn't asked for his service, he would surely have nothing left in the next day. After that day, other people began to use the contracts Issei gave them, thus saving him in an unknown place. There were days when Issei only made one contract, but on other occasions Issei made 2 or even 3 contracts a day, all because proving what one person can do. Managing to live that way, Issei ended up being used more and being able to communicate better with all those who were his contractors. One day he was asked by a person in the address of a maid cafe and went. As he stepped inside, Issei fell as the floor became a slide, so Issei slid down the slide until arriving in front of an old man. The old man was named Kischer Zelrich Schweinorg, a mage who wanted Issei to clean his room. After finishing, Zelrich gave Issei a recognizable sword from his dream and vision. Issei decided to call it a slog and thank Zelrich. As the old man grinned, he asked for contracts to send to his acquaintances. Issei, seeing no problem, he gave the flyers and left the old man room. Issei discovered the sword. He had the ability to change form into its sword form, spear form, bow form are the only form that a slog has, which are useful in different situations. The next day he was contacted by a different contractor who was a beautiful girl with long golden blonde hair styled entirely in large coils. She wears ribbons in her hair. She wears a long blue dress. She asked for Issei to be a butler to assist her needs. Luckily, Issei didn't have any other contractors calling him, so Issei was able to focus his attention on Miss Livia Gelita Edelfelt, who seems to be graceful, never blaspheming, and displaying a beauty similar to that of a swan. Of course, Issei found out that it is all just a facade. On the contrary, she very competitive and suffers from perfectionist tendencies. Although wealthy, Livia does not tolerate excessive spending. That puts Issei at ease. However, she told Issei that such spending of money is meaningful because aristocrats are aristocrats. She understands that commoners like Issei do not have good views about the aristocrats, but she loves that about them strongly because she understands them. She accepts that her fate is to marry a high-class gentleman of noble birth, but the more she spent her time with Issei, she told him that her personal tastes are more towards a simple man. She said that while licking her lips. Issei thought maybe she was thirsty. The next contactor was another girl named Bizette Fragamikrimitz, who wears a black, 2-piece business suit with a red-violet necktie. She has short, magenta hair and a mole just below her left eye. She requested Issei's services on assassinating her and capturing a mage. Issei agreed. In exchange, Issei requested to learn physical combat and employs runic sorcery on the limbs, hands, and feet to increase fighting potential, which she agreed. Issei noticed that Bizette is a serious, kind, and hard-working individual who possesses a strong sense of justice. She can be short-tempered, but calculating. While she presents herself as a strong-willed and mature woman with an independent streak, she is actually rather lonely. So Issei made sure to keep her company when even Issei see her, and just to make her smile. The next day Issei was contacted by a witch who asked to protect her daughter named Ingvild Leviathan. That name alone put Issei on guard. Think about devils, Rias, and was going to refuse, but the eyes of the woman who begged Issei made him sigh and swear to protect her. The witch was thankful as she explained the situation, that her husband hasn't made contact with them, so will find what's happening, and wish Issei to take care of Ingvild in the meantime. Issei sighed as he accepted, but told her of his situation, as the witch understood and gave him some gem that he could sell or use. As the witch left, Issei was in charge of Ingvild. Ingvild heard his story of his devil life and felt guilty about it, but made sure to make Issei aware that not every person are like that. The two began to get close together, where Issei leaves to make a contracts, and when he returns Ingvild greets him and made dinner for him too, which was tasty. But the day that would change his mind about all devils being evil was the day he fought a shadow person with the army of black wolves that Issei beat in order to protect her and make her not use her sacred gear that would cause a flood in the area, so with great determination he protected her. So that day changed him. Not all devils were bad, because there were still some out there that are like Ingvild and that they can change. It just depends on the type of person they are. So Issei lived a year with Ingvild while working on his contract papers with people who used his services and having great relationships with his contractors as well. That includes Livia, Bizet, but for some reason Ingvild pouts and doesn't like it when he spends his time with them for some reason. After 1 year of living on contracts, suddenly a high-quality paper appeared in front of him. Upon reading it, Issei learned that he was invited to return to the underworld to receive news regarding his 1,000 contracts fulfilled in just 1 year of becoming a reincarnated devil. Luckily, on the paper it told Issei how to take the train from the underworld, as if they knew about his lack of knowledge of the world. He and Ingvild followed the directions and they took the train where, once again, Issei and Ingvild ate the food inside and enjoy it, and this time Issei staying to look out the window at the dimensional space with Ingvild. After arriving at their destination, which was a kind of office, he was informed about the permission he carried to take the test of promotion to a mid-ranking devil. Normally it was necessary to wait for the day when it was decided to take the test, where you pass the written exam that deals with the history and many things of the most important clans before moving on to the practical test, where the strength of the examiner will be classified. If he passes both tests, he will be allowed to rise from rank to a middle-class devil. But for Issei's case it was different, thanks to a secret method that not many know. Due to their desires that the reincarnated devils do not rise from ranks, so the pure-blooded ones are the only ones of high rank. The devil in high positions and the members of the Devil Council did not want to implement such a method, but with some pressure they gave up and created that method, but they kept it secret, claiming with the idea that, if they discover it for themselves, it is because they really make many daily contracts. A reincarnated devil had to fulfill a certain amount of contracts in 15 years if he wanted to rise in rank only on the basis of contracts. If they fulfilled a contract, but the next one failed, the count would be reduced by 1, as if the previous one had never happened. That way many would unknowingly move away from the quota. But those who reached the established number of 1,000 contracts could take the written exam, and if they approved it they would be middle-ranking devils. So far only 3 people discovered such a method, Issei being the third, but the other 2 had taken between 13 and 14 years, and when they found out they wanted to pull their hair out due to the second requirement. To rise from middle rank to high-ranking devil, 3,000 contracts had to be fulfilled. If it took them 13 or 14 years to reach 1,000 contracts, how long would it take them with 3,000? It was impossible for them to get there, even if they make contracts all day. Issei, knowing of the method, a wonderful idea came to his mind, and with that he saw a light in his life. If he is a high-ranking devil, he will be able to have a peerage and fulfill his promise with Seiya, while also having help in his current situation. With that objective in mind, Issei visited the city's library in order to study as much as possible about the history of the underworld without leaving anything aside but, of course, Ingvild's support. That was the first time in his life that Issei had studied so seriously, but Issei felt like he did this before vision appeared, where he was studying magecraft with a man with long black hair with a black business suit with glass as well, smoking a cigarette, teaching the poor Issei to study. But his efforts were not in vain. After a whole month of studying, the middle-class test arrived and Issei was able to pass the written test, becoming middle rank without others knowing it. Before returning to the human world, he asked a girl named Himikami Liesel, a descendant from a noble family, and help him to make more contracts since he didn't know how to make them. After teaching him, she and Issei, Ingvild became friends, as Liesel wasn't like another devil. She does not look down on humans and is not arrogant, boastful, and selfish. She greatly believes in Issei's resolve, finds it admirable. Liesel dislikes most of the other noble devils and Devil Council, because of their goals being mostly to boost their family's reputation and their own. On the other hand, Issei is different. Despite being a reincarnated devil, he knows the hardships that come from it, and doesn't mind supporting him. And she told to Issei that has a potential to change the world for some reason. She believes it, and wishes him luck. Issei now believes that there's good devil out there, and was happy to know that. He and Ingvild returned to the human world, except that Issei made another mistake, and this time he reappeared in an unknown place. Well, not so much when he noticed a metal tower that was erected at the top. Luckily, Issei knows how to speak different languages, so he found out that they were in the city of France. Mervive la France. Issei had planned to do the same as in the other city, make contracts in exchange for money and raise the amount for the 3,000 contracts, even though it would not be easy. He did not expect to be the only demon in the city thanks to the presence of exorcists who on several occasions almost killed him and Ingvild if it were not for the fact that he managed to hide their presence, or because they found them the next day working in stores such as cafeterias, greengrocery, bakery, among others. It could be said that he had earned the trust of several exorcists, including the saint named Lena Libra after Issei and Ingvild helping children to get back to the church. Issei was nearly killed because Lena thought Issei came to do something with the young priestesses that was happening around other churches, making them excommunicated. But soon Issei explained that he was there to help the children back because of stray devil attacks in night. So after Issei told Lena his story about how he became a reincarnated devil, even how he was traded off like a slave in a damn week, his cruel king, his best friend's death, his situation, and how he and Ingvild are living. After being told of the situation, she felt sorry for his situation, so she declared that Issei and Ingvild have a free pass and will not be attacked. Issei was very thankful. He also wanted to send something to his mother and grandfather, so with Lena's assistance she had the things mailed to his family. What Issei sent was a reddish gem and money to them because he's been earning a lot of money while doing these contracts, and decided to just send some to his family, including a reddish gem he filled with mana with the type of magecraft he was learning that was filled with fire element. The day when his mother read the letter, she was proud for her son and was very interested in his story as she began to write a novel about it that became very popular. Not mentioned when she used the gem, she started creating fire. Self-proclaimed herself as a fire witch that caused his grandfather near heart attack after knowing that her daughter was a wizard. Speaking of his magecraft, it even intrigued Lena on how Issei uses it, not to mention spending times with Lena and the other servants of the church. He's been getting visions and asked if they have any black keys, but Lena and the others have no idea what he was talking about. So Issei explained what he knows about the black keys. After hearing the explanation, Lena decided to have them created and thank for his explanation and how to create them. Time passed by the seasons, and after the 5th winter, leaving the apartment with a coat and a scarf, a familiar high-quality paper appeared by a transfer spell. With smile adorned Issei's face when he saw the message similar to that of last year, that message that had given him a goal not to give up. With a last view of the Eiffel Tower, Issei and Ingvild headed for the underworld train that would arrive in a few hours, although he regretted having to leave that beautiful city. After arriving to the underworld, Issei and Ingvild found Liesel and told her that Issei made it. She said she would like to stay with them because of the situation going on in her household, saying no problem, they had her come with them. Flashback end with Issei. Issei opened his eyes and extended her arms as if she could still see something approaching him. He got up, took a long bath, then had dinner with Ingvild and Liesel until a small square box appeared on their bedside table in silence. Issei approached and opened that box and found 15 red chess pieces. And for some reason his phone started to play a song by accident because of Siri. It was beginning to play Last Stardust, but no one decided to stop it since the song felt necessary, as Ingvild followed the lyrics of the song. Issei, I did it, I finally did it, he celebrated out loud without being able to withstand the emotion by jumping, throwing the pillow in the air and throwing it to the bed. I did it, Ingvild, she smiled happily knowing that Issei finally did it as she followed the song. Congratulations Issei, I'm happy for you, she said before joining in. Issei full on excitement. Liesel, congratulations, I see you deserve it. I knew you can do it, she said before getting hit by a pillow by Ingvild. Hey Ingvild, I'll get you back for that, she said before joining in the mini pillow fight. After their fun they lay on the floor but each had a smile for the girls. It was that Issei completed his goal. As for Issei, he was proud of his achievement, as he watches the open box with his evil piece, and allowing them to see the room. Issei, mind, I finally did it. Hee I promise you Seiya and prove you bitch Gremory. He frowned of the sight of red hair, blue eyes and a promise that he would make her suffer. However, Issei started to having a dream about the past, no the vision, no his past life as Issei Renato, the second last master of Chaldea. What was that place again? Unknown, with a old man. We can see a ball-shaped gem. Inside there was a old man sitting in his chair, but this old man was none other than Zelrich, who was watching a mirror in front of him show Issei, who was struggling in his sleep. Zelrich, it seems it's time for you awake, Issei Hayadu. Let's see how your story goes compared to the others Issei I met, he said with a smile. As a phone appeared beside him. Phone Zelrich, it's time for this Issei to awaken now. I'm afraid his servant can't hold his memories back anymore. So let the fun begin. The voice was a young man who seemed to be excited for the story. Zelrich, all right then, Mr. Hajime Zero. The preparations are set. He has his sword, magecraft, but the only thing missing is his holy grail, and servants. I believe you select them, he said to the phone. Phone, yep, well of course I had help now then. The voice of Hajime Zero became quiet before a shiny golden light appeared, which was the Holy Grail. Then now send it, and leave it all to Issei. Well, that all have a good day, the voice said before a click could be heard. Zelrich, haha, that person was seriously waiting for this moment. Well, Issei Hayadu, it's time, he said before cutting a portal before flicking the grail towards it before disappearing. Meanwhile, Issei was sleeping together with Ingvild and Liesel as the dream of Issei started to become clearer, as the vision he hardly could see became clear to him. These visions were about his past life as a master, but not any master, the master of Chaldea, an organization to protect humanity. Then at some point in his evil pieces began to shine brightly at the level where the light bothered everyone and causing them to waking up. Issei, what is that light, he said, rubbing his eyes before fixing his gaze in front of him. My pieces, what's going on? Ingvild, what's going on, she said, looking surprised while looking at Issei evil pieces. Liesel, turn off the lights. I was trying to. What's happening, she said, looking at what's happening. Issei being to take the girls to take cover in fear that an error has happened to his piece and they would explode. If something like this happened because of his unique and unstable magical power, it would mean that maybe Issei can have a peerage. That would be the worst possible result. At that moment his fear increased more when Issei saw how some pieces began to lose their shape, almost as if it were going to explode. Issei, take cover, he shouted to the girls, who began to duck. But nothing happened. Taking a peek where he saw how the pieces began to levitate on their own, leaving him confused. If they weren't going to explode, what was going on? Issei didn't know how to react to what he was seeing. Even for him, who had little experience with magic, he could perceive the loss of demonic power that represented the ability to form a peerage. The next thing was how each of the pieces lost its original shape. From his 15 pieces they changed into a new and unique designs. The pieces descended to Issei's hands before rotating in a circle before the Holy Grail appeared in front of him. He examined the pieces as he remembered exactly what pieces became which. The queen's piece became that of a beast. His 2 bishops became an archer figure and a person holding a staff. His rooks had a knight holding a shield and the other a person being held by chains. His knights had knight hold a sword and the other a lance. And lastly his pawn taken some similar form to the other pieces, except for some, as in someone with a kind of mount leash in his hands, someone with 2 daggers, one covered in a coat, 2 jester in opposite sides. And finally, the remaining had a person with dragon wings surrounding it. Issei continued to examine them before finally Issei found a click as his eyes wide as he looks at his hands. Issei, what the hell happened? My vision, they weren't just dream, they were my past. My past life, he said as the 2 girls watch over him. I remember I was Issei Ritaro, the master of Chaldea Mashuritsuka. I'm back, he said with a smile as his memory came back as he looks at the Grail. The Grail was floating in front of him as everyone of the underworld senses the power of his Holy Grail. Before saying anything he remembered his wish when he died. Issei, that right? If I could make a wish, I wish that we could see each other again, and you Tamashu, he said, repeating his words as the Grail granted it. But something else happened that would leaving Evie in shock, as his own evil piece began to break into small pieces. Is this real? He said as his demonic power, wings, everything that made him devil had disappeared, making him a human as before. Issei, fascinating, the Holy Grail reverted me back to a human again. It is supposed that even if your king dies and they take out the piece after his death, you will continue to be a demon forever, he said without knowing how to react. Obviously, he was happy to be human again. He strove for years to be a high-ranking devil only to have the pieces to form a peerage, and now the pieces changed. Another explosion of magic exploded, flooding the entire room with golden magic that left Issei smiling. The event is not over yet. As pieces that surrounded the Grail began to glow into different colors, each ejecting different amounts of magic. The glow lasted for minutes until their shape was modified, ending up showing figures of women who left Issei smiling to see them and surprised to see some new faces. Meanwhile, Ingvild and Liesel were in shock at what was happening as the women were first-class beauties. Almost immediately the women release a few words that leave them speechless completely as they turn towards Issei. Women, we're glad to see you again, Master / we are at your service, Master. The bond forged between a master and his servant, a heroic spirit, is nothing but special and precious. It transcends humans' knowledge, and even the spirits doesn't know the full extent of its power. Increasing one's power to an almost unimaginable height, closing a long distance in a single second with a single command, bending reality to allow the inexistences to exist, etc. This is a story about a man who once forged bonds tougher than the strongest metal in the world, and his story after his reincarnation. Chaldea. In the new Chaldea in the Wandering Sea, Ritsuko was lay on her bed while having her arm covering her eyes as she had tears streaming down. Ritsuko, Issei, it's been years ever since you died, and things weren't the same without you. We push ourselves every day, and a part of me wonders if what would have happened if I died instead, she said while having tears. The servants miss you and me and Mashu, she said while crying as someone entered her room. It was Mashu who looked at her senpai before going up to her. Mashu senpai, we must go to with Devinsikin, it's urgent, she said with not so much emotion since today was the day where Issei died. As she didn't receive an answer, and just hearing her senpai cry, she started to cry before a hand was on her head as Mashu begins to wipe her tears. We can see several servant and few staff members of Chaldea, but the sad expression of the members can be seen in their expressions while the new servant and director Gordolf asked the reason for everyone being sad. Da Vinci, it's the day where we finished the 8th and final singularity, there we lost the previous direction and active 9th master Issei Rintaro, she said as everyone had sad expression. Gordolf, I see, it's a shame he would be able to help Fujimura in the Lost Belt, he said as he read the report of Issei and his bio and information. But a few servants who were sad and felt something, a connection to someone that until realization came to their mind. Servants, Master, you're alive, they said, but all had different experiences as they all tried to reconnect with their master. Everyone couldn't believe what's going on as a few servants glowed and disappeared that caused the alarm to act out. Sherlock, fascinating, not even dead can make you disappear, Issei. The bond forged between him and his servant transcends the world itself. He holding his pipe as he sees nearly half of the servants disappearing. This caused a little bit of panic between everyone, but later they know that all the servants that disappeared were the servants of Issei. It almost seems like all of them has left. And Chinsama, you forgot about me, shouted a servant, with Issei. Women, we're glad to see you again, Master / we are at your service, Master. The sudden appearance, not only of 12 women, but rather, of 12 beautiful women calling Issei Master caused Ingvild and Liesel a considerable increase in nerves, emotion, and doubts. Ingvild, Master Issei, what's going on? She asks the obvious question, confused on what's going on. Issei walks up to them and he scratches his cheek before raising his hands up for a hug as a girl with pink hair and golden brown eyes, as she was wearing a white outfit that has a coat covering her top while having a crown on her head. The next person was a girl with light yellow eyes with blondish hair, as her outfit was that of a white kimono with a blue haori and white triangle in the end, in addition of a black scarf around her neck. She wields a kanata around her hips. The next person to join was a girl with long straight black hair and red eyes, as she wears a black westernized general uniform with a hat and red cape. She wielded a kanata around her hips. These three girls hugged Issei tightly as Issei smiled and hugged them back with tears in their eyes, while Ingvild and Liesel were confused on what's happening, but they separated as Issei turned towards them. Issei, these girls are my servants from my past life, he said, causing shock on to the two devils as Issei turned to his servants. Well, introduce yourselves. And for the rest of you can wait because I don't know who you guys are, he said as the servants that were with Issei stepped forward. As for the one he doesn't know stayed behind them as his servant went in order. Okita, hello there, my name is Okita Tsuji, first captain of the Shinsengumi Saber class, said the girl with yellow eyes with blondish hair. Nobu, I am the demon archer Nobunaga, the demon king of the sixth heaven, said the girl with black hair and red eyes. Skathak Lancer class, queen of the land of shadow Skathak. A pleasure to meet you, spoke a woman with long purple hair and crimson eyes, who wears a full-length black bodysuit that highlights her curvilinear figure with the addition of metal pads on shoulders. She also held a red spear in her. Semiramis assassin class, my name is Semiramis and I am the queen of Assyria. Thank you for taking care of our foolish master, spoke a woman with long black hair with dark yellow eyes. She also had what seems to be long ears. She also had dressed like a noblewoman. Med, queen of Connaught, Queen Med, rider class, a pleasure to meet you, said the girl with pink hair and golden brown eyes. Jean Dark Altar, I'm the dragon witch Jean Dark Altar, Avenger class, she said while letting out a scoff. Issei she named that, but I like to call her Jalter, he said with a smile before Jalter had a blush before she tried to get her hands on Issei's neck. But he avoided it, but then he saw someone he never thought of seeing even again. The girl stepped up nervously as she is shown to have pink short hair with lavender eyes, as she had a black armor with an opening in the abdomen, black gloves and boots, a garter on her right thigh. As she came close and spoke out, Mashu Mash Kirilite, ready for action once again I Saizenpai, she said while causing Issei shock as he had tears in his eyes seeing her again. And just like that, Issei ran up to her and hugged her. As they hugged, Mashu was surprised, but hugged back, while everyone else was watching this with jealousy, confusion, happy. After the moment of Issei and Mash, one of the extra servants stepped forward. She was a beautiful girl dressed in a white dress with a purple butterfly design on the chest area with her hood on. She walks until she is one step away from Issei. It's a pleasure to meet our master, she said before bowing down her head. You can call me by my name, or my class if you prefer. After being told by class again, Ingvild and Liesel still don't understand what that meant, so decided to ask. Ingvild class, excuse me, but I have no idea what is happening right now, she said, taking a step forward to Issei and starts trying to pull him away from all these beautiful girls and women. The servants seen this, they noticed that this girl likes their master. But my biggest question is, why did you all appear out of Issei? Evil pieces. Evil pieces? Oh, you mean the chess pieces that we have inside each of us, she asks. As Ingvild nodded, the girl began to somewhat cheerful respond her. Let's see, to begin with, there are many things that even we must consider. But to clarify the doubt you have, each piece has their own, represents our classes. In my case I am a caster, so the bishop piece has turned into a caster piece, she said, showing a sweet smile next to an aura that made the two Devil and Issei himself believing that she was having fun on what's happening. Issei caster, huh? So, what classes are the rest of you? He asked them, but then he began to have a smile. Also, I would like to know each and every one of your names if you don't mind, he said with a smile. Okita master, look, there's other me, she said, holding the hand of a version of her that is much bigger than what Issei thought. The other Okita was an alternate counterpart of Okita Tsuji with brown skin and short white hair. Unlike the original Okita, her alternate version wore a red and black dress similar to a short kimono and black westernized coat. The other Okita was an alternate counterpart of Okita Tsuji with brown skin and short white hair. Unlike the original Okita, her alternate version wore a red and black dress similar to a short kimono and black westernized coat. While Issei was looking at this Okita, he noticed something odd about her. And what he found out was that she was sleeping. Issei, hello, he said, trying to wave at her, but then all of a sudden she snapped out of her sleep. Okita Alder zzz, ha, I'm not sleeping. I was sleeping, she said as Issei began to headpat her because of her cuteness. After being headpat on she began to speak who she is. I am Meijin Okita Tsuji. Alter ego class. Merlin, I am Merlin, once again, it a pleasure to meet you, she said, naturally ignoring the glare of one of the another servants. Meanwhile, Issei was in shock. Issei, Merlin, that Merlin, he exclaims in amazement because he remembered correctly. Merlin was a dude, he never encountered a female counterpart before. Merlin, correct. I am the real Merlin who helped King Arthur fulfill his destiny, she declares with pride. To think you responded to the summon of my husband. A woman with platinum blonde hair and a ponytail. She has a black, white, and blue dress as materialized some sort of staff in the shape of an axe. She has a black, white, and blue dress as materialized some sort of staff in the shape of an axe. But those words cause shock onto every girl here. Mashuso senpai is married now, good for you. Scathack master, it seems you must take re-education. Ingvild Issei, you had a wife and you never told me about that. Lizel, I thought we wouldn't keep secrets from each other. Guess I was wrong. Okita alter zzz. Medbit should have been me, not her. I wanted to steal his V-card. Semiramis, it seems I have to give you some punishment. Master prepared for taste. Testing some poison. Okita, no master, why? Nobunaga, ha ha, you sure are popular, master. The queen calls this person her husband. Issei, whoa, let's all calm down. It's not what you think. I don't even know what the hell is going on. I need contacts, please. 1 hour later, after calming down all his servants and the 2 devil girls, we tried to get an explanation on why the servant called Issei her husband. Until she could even speak, she was interrupted by Merlin. Merlin, oh, I recognize you. It's good to see you, Your Highness Morgan, she said, revealing the true name of Morgan. This shocked Issei. Say this was Morgan. Morgan, be quiet, you, she said before turning to her master before giving the gentle bow. You have summoned me, Berserker Morgan. I am the Queen of Fair Britain. If you don't have a problem with that, I'll lend you my power as a servant. It's an unchangeable fact that I'm a queen. I expect you to work as my retainer. Or perhaps do you want me to treat you as my husband? She said as everyone stayed silent, leaving the decision up to Issei. Began to think what he should say. Issei, oh well, it's such an honor being married to a queen, but sadly, I have some goals I want to achieve. I want you to lend me your power. Then someday I'll respond if I'm worthy to be your husband, he said, bowing to her. This intrigued Morgan. Her master wants to be worthy on being her husband, then she would put him into some test to evaluate him. Morgan, I shall call you my husband for now. I wait results from you, to see if you're worthy of being my husband. And for that, I shall lend you my strength for the time. After saying that, all the girls glared at her. Morgan noticed that she has competition. She would allow them to challenge her after she accept them as potential members for master if they also show results. Author's notes. Damn, I need you guys to decide if she becomes main wife or one of the others. Ahem, I guess I'm the last one. Right, said a girl with dark purple hair and grayish purple eyes, and wears a kimono with red, dark purple, white being held by a bow on her back, as has 2 red and 2 dark purple flowers on her head. She also had a tiny black octopus hold a blush in its tentacles on her right side. Well, I'll introduce ourselves. My name is Katsushika Wii, and this is my father Katsushika Hokusai. She said, first planning at herself, and then pointing lastly at the octopus. Issei, wait, Hokusai is an octopus now? That's the craziest thing I have ever heard. Issei, wait, Hokusai is an octopus now? That's the craziest thing I have ever heard, said Issei, being in shock that the octopus was the famous artist of Japan. Ingvild Hokusai, I feel like I've heard that before, she said, only reading a few books about Japan since Issei is a native from there. Lizel Hokusai is the famous artist who drew True Great Wave off Kanagawa. It's very famous. I believe even Rias Gremery wanted the original painting and got it because of her brother influence, and they replaced the original with a fake one for the museum, she said, causing Issei to be angry that his home country famous painting was stolen by that red-haired tomato girl. As for Hokusai, and we were surprised that their painting was stolen from their country because of one girl. A few passed as the servants watched their master Issei being calmed down by Ingvild. After all, Ingvild is the only person who knows more of Issei past with Rias Gremery. Just speaking her name causes Issei magic circuits to suddenly turn on as he materializes a sword in his hand. So she made sure to take away the sword by carefully taking off his fingers one by one and taking the sword. The servants were confused why their master was triggered by one name, as they would have to look into that one day. Merlin, before anything. We all introduce ourselves except for her saying that. All their gaze turned towards an albino-haired girl with a mask and blue armor sitting in the distance with her legs and arms crossed. With subtle movements she stood up and walked until she was next to all the servants and her master. Everyone had already introduced themselves and said their classes, except for her, since everyone didn't know her identity, except for one person who watched her. To Issei, it wouldn't be strange that she was a new class of servant that he has met. Scathack, and well, will you tell us who you are or will you remain silent, she said while sitting on the bed of Issei crossing her legs. Before revealing my class I have to say my name first, she said looking at her master. Mash, so who are you? She said, since she from Grand Order, and has no memories of her current self-state. That's with Ritsuka right now. I have 2 names, you can call me as you wish, she said, now staring at the albino magician, causing her curiosity as to why she was looking at her. Meanwhile, one person was smiling. The first name I have is Lancelot. As soon as she said that name, Merlin's smile was erased and was replaced by an expression of total shock. As well as Issei, since if remembered correctly, Lancelot was that guy who was looking for divorced women, and to be honest, Issei was glad Ritsuka summoned him, and he summoned Berserkerlit, and the only problem with him was him just screaming Arthur. Meanwhile, Mash was holding her head thinking, this is a dream. I said, can't believe that her father is a girl, to be more exact a little girl, and she hopes she isn't like her father that would want divorced men, because if so she might go after Issei, and that thought alone made her have a bad feeling about it. Author note, haha, just wait until Issei and her have reached bond level 5. That's when all the girls have to step up their game. Merlin, did you say Lancelot? It's impossible, she said, frowning slightly. Liesel, what do you mean? Merlin, if we are from the same world, it's impossible for you to be Lancelot. Even Master is doubtful. Am I right, Master? She said, looking at Issei, who nodded. Issei, the Lancelot I seen was a man, including his berserker form was a man. Even Mash knows you're not Lancelot well unless you're from Proto-Arthur world, he said in a thinker pose of the possibility that in the world of Proto-Arthur every knight of the Round Table is a woman. Wait, if his world has different genders, then what about Morgan? She would be a man, and would at that moment Issei hold his head and just tried to shake off that thought. Why do you say that? Merlin, because if it were true then I would know who you are, and you would have recognized me too. Everyone else was confused and didn't understand what was happening. Merlin and Lancelot were supposed to be part of King Arthur's companions, but now Merlin says that the albino girl is not Lancelot. That's because our kingdoms are not the same, reveals the false Lancelot. Merlin, what do you mean? I think that for this reason it is the origin of my class. She continued to speak, ignoring the words of the magician. The Knights of the Round Table that you know, in my world have different names and appearances. As in my case, Lancelot is only my knight's name. My personal name is Melusine, she spoke while placing a hand on her mask in order to take it off. And I belong to the fairy class, she said, leaving a face impeccable without imperfections, small soft lips and golden eyes that enhanced her features. It would be a lie that Issei's breathing stopped for a moment when he saw her face uncovered. Meanwhile, the mention of the new fairy class filled all the servants with intrigue about what abilities she is granted and what other servants can enter that class. Morgan, it's good to see you, Melusine, spoke Morgan, causing shock to everyone that these two know each other. Melusine, it's a pleasure to see you again, Your Highness. She bowed to Morgan. Issei, I guess that makes sense. Morgan did say she's Queen of Fairy Britain, he said, wondering how many fairy knights of the round there are. Liesel, so could we get an explanation on what is a servant? We are the only ones that don't know what's going on, she said as Ingvild nods as well. Merlin, all right. Normally, the servants that are invoked are always 7, but as you can see there are different classes we which presented ourselves. She began to talk, looking at the two. It is also normal that each one has different master, that way we can fight for the Holy Grail, but seeing the situation in which we find ourselves, the war is no longer our mind. Ingvild, wait, did you say War of the Holy Grail? Scadhack, 7 servants are invoked by 7 masters from time to fight to the death between them, with the sole objective of the Holy Grail fulfilling their wishes. But from a simple wish from our master, we were summoned to be by his side again. But this time he invoked new unknown classes. Ingvild, a different world. Do you all come from another world? Merlin, that's right. It's a bit confusing for everyone. Sorry for not being able to tell you more. Liesel, oh, no, it's not a problem. Semiramis, in fact, Mash, you haven't said your class yet. Mashua, that's right, I'm from Shielda class, she said, presented class with a bow, while manifesting a shield larger than her. Ingvild, whoa, where did the shield come from? Issei, servants are capable of materialize their weapon. Whenever they need it, they can even return it to their spiritual state. Ingvild, spiritual, she spoke confusingly while tilting her head. Mash, that's right, Issei-senpai, we are all heroic spirits of the past, present or future, she declares, leaving the devil speechless before that revelation, or well, at least it is so in our world. She ends by releasing a nervous laugh. Liesel, somehow I'm not surprised that my head hurts, she said, massaging her eyebrows. that he says is capable of summoning heroes from the past. Issei, alright, everyone listen up. It's pretty late, so we're gonna go back to sleep. The rest of you can go to your spiritual forms. Till morning we'll head out and try to catch up to the train so I can take me back home, is that clear? Servants, High Master, they said as some dematerialize while others just stuck around while observing the room while looking outside and noticing it being different. Meanwhile, just let out yarn before he went to his bed to sleep. Ingvild and just decided to sleep Liesel in bed together, not knowing that a few servants would sleep with Issei. Melusine let out a cute yawn before she started to crawl inside Issei's bed and starts wrapping her arms around him to receive his body heat. Meanwhile, Okita also slept while beside her master bed. Meanwhile, there was a queen who wanted to take away his V-card while everyone was busy, but she was caught by the queen of the land shadow. Everyone was waking up from the morning. As the first one to get up was Ingvild, who was the first one to try to make breakfast for everyone despite you had to make more. But she didn't mind, these people were to Issei, so they are important for her. As breakfast was already finished, she decided to check on but noticed Morgan watching him. Ingvild, sorry for intruding, but I have to wake up Issei. It's morning and I wish for him to eat his breakfast before we get going to his hometown. She looking at Morgan as the person looks at her. Morgan, yes. Believe that test for me, I shall wake up my husband, she declared, but Ingvild did not resist. Ingvild, but the two of you are not married. And like he said, he has his goals he wishes to complete, and I'm certain he'll find someone else than yourself, she said while Morgan just stared at her. Morgan, are you challenging me, little girl? Ingvild, that depends, am I a challenge for you? Both of them stared intently at each other, none wanting to back down. But they heard a little groan that didn't come from Issei. They both looked at each other before nodding, and they pulled the covers to see. And what they saw was Melusine and Issei sleeping together in the same bed, and saw how Melusine was clinging to Issei. After seeing them sleeping together, both of them looked at one another as they wake Issei, but they started to pull Melusine away from Issei. Issei, whoa, that girl seriously has a lot of strength. Also, I didn't expect her to sleep with me, the only one that slept with me would be Kyoheim, he said, but then he immediately shut up after noticing the two girls' glares. Minutes later, everyone was currently eating breakfast. All except Melusine, who is still sleeping. It seems that girl sleeps a lot. Issei, well, listen up, everyone. He spoke out, gathering the attention of all his servants. Alright, so what we're gonna do is go to the train and start heading back to my home, but first I have a few questions. He said it begins to stare at Semiramis. So Semi, can you materialize your noble phantasm, he asked, since in order for her to have her hanging gardens of Babylon they would have to gather material. Semiramis, master, I told you not to call me by that nickname when we're in public. Ugh, I cannot use it at this moment. When relocating here I lost it, which means we have to rebuild it again. She said the last of her castle was hard, but not being by her master's side was worse, and if she had to sacrifice her castle for her master she would. Issei, alright then, I guess that means we'll have to go to Baghdad and collect the ruins from there, and the necessary material to restore the castle. After the mention of a castle, Morgan asked, Morgan, so the castle will be finished for how many days? When she heard a castle would be built, this intrigued her. Semiramis, with all the material, at least 3 days if I have all the necessary things I have. But master, why do you desperately need the castle now? Issei, I can go home anytime I want right now. But having you guys back makes me happy. And I want to have all of you and your full strength, not to mention the castle would be a good base temporarily. Noble old master, are you scheming something? There are things you haven't told us we wish to know. Because it seems like you're preparing for war. Issei, something like that. I always want to keep my cards in my deck. You see, it's about this world. You guys can already tell we're not in the human world, we're in the underworld. And there's more beings out there, including gods, so I want to be prepared because I'm not like how I was before. I don't have the dragon heart. But the single thought of having a base in my hometown seems to be the best option. Ingvild, it's because of her you're worried about. Issei, yeah? And I know some of you are confused on what I mean by her. I didn't have my memories. I only got them once I saw all of you. I was tricked by a devil. And just like that, he told his story on how Rias Gremry tricked him and asked her, seeing his potential, threw him away to a terrible master where he and his friend had to suffer, where he had to struggle to live to earn money. And under 2 years he became high class and had them back. After telling his story, his servants were furious, including the now awake Melusine. Hearing what happened to their master, how he had to struggle, how people viewed him as a devil, and he saw the hardship that everyone has to go through. They force humans to become devil and treat them wrong. Issei, my goal is simple, just like our previous director Algamer. Dr. Romani Chaldea is known to protect the human order. But that changes now because we're going to protect humanity from the supernatural world. I want to show these other beings that humans have a protector now. And I want to save the people who are forced to become devils or whatever races for their own organizations. That's why I need your guys' help. I want to restore Chaldea here. I made a promise to someone and I plan to keep it. Nobu Master, I think I speak to all of us that we are with you till the end. We'll help you in protecting the human world. Scadhack, it seems I have to turn up the level in our sparring. Morgan, if that is your wish, then I shall comply, my husband. Merlin, this is going to be very exciting. So what are you waiting for, Master? Let's do it. Issei, what's the price? But happy to see all his servants would have his back. Issei, thank you everyone. Now Liesel, did you bring what I asked for? Liesel, yes, I got the cloaks you were asking for. She says that she begins to start passing the cloaks to everyone. Issei, so the reason why we're giving you guys is because of your attire. I know you guys can change, but I think we just have to wear the cloaks, just go out the city, and just be where the train is and go to Baghdad, gather material for semi, and fly across the world. Everyone nodded, but some begrudgingly wore it, especially Med, who didn't like wearing a cloak. Issei, well, it looks like everyone got their cloaks, he said before noticing one cloak being left. Wait, where did Melusine go? He asks as he noticed she disappeared. Morgan, apologies, my husband, but I had her do something for me. She'll come back soon. Issei, okay, as long as she comes back safe, then that's all right with me, but let's get everyone. He said. Everyone begins to step out of the hotel, and everyone was surprised seeing a single person accompanied by multiple girls and women. Some men gave him glares. As they walked the streets, a voice recognizable to started making him angry. Zephodor, well, if it isn't Issei Hayadu. Issei, god damn it, this. Zephodor, what's wrong? Scared? Not like you have your big buddy by your side. Issei, don't say that to my boy Serorg. Zephodor, or what are you going to do? What are you got? All of a sudden, something hidden in his knee as you screamed. What seemed to be a sword with just a single handle pierced him in the leg. Issei, just shut up and get out of my ing way unless you want to die. Zephodor, you bastard, you think you can just walk away injuring me? Get them. Bo. Before he knew it, all guards and some members of his peerage were all slaughtered. Issei, just shut up and just don't even come at me again, and don't say anything or else we're gonna have a big problem, he says, beginning to walk away, not caring about the consequences. Merlin, this is incredible. Issei-sama, do you say that this train travels between the dimensions? It's incredible. Once they got to where the train would stop, they got on as soon as possible. Upon entering, they were all amazed by the comforts and the way the train moved through the air. But the most excited was Merlin when she learned that the train was traveling through the dimensional crack to reach the human world. Issei, when she finds something new of her interest, she get very excited. He murmured with a little laugh, but overall, he was happy that Merlin was like a little girl. Merlin watched with fascination the view outside the window. She wasn't the only one though, as both Hokusai were currently painting the window, finding it pretty fascinating and beautiful while they travel. Nobu, Okita, Mash and Okita Alter were all eating their favorite dishes that were on the table, while the royalty servants such as Scathack, Med Semiramis, Morgan were in vibratory seats enjoying the massages they provided them. For a moment, after the train started, Issei was scared to remember that Melusine was left behind in the underworld, but he quickly got rid of his fear by seeing her already choosing her food, which Issei did not understand how it is that she arrived so quickly without him guiding her. Issei, I wonder what mission did Morgan gave her. And without him, realizing that Mousie was holding some kind of red gauntlet in her hand before she gave it to Morgan, she went back to eat more of the sweets. Meanwhile, Chaos Brigades. The base was destroyed by a single girl who went and stole the boosted gear that they have stolen from the user of the boosted gear. They wanted to replicate it and use its power, but that all crumbled away when a little girl came. She busted down the door, flew like a rock, knocking all the guards, even some using defense spells. She held out her hands straight like an arrow and pierced the shields like they were butter. She took the boosted gear, and that's when she encountered the rise of him. This would be a big and epic battle, but instead she just flew past and hit him in the back, breaking a few bones as he held his hip. The battle ended. Rizovim would never forget that little girl, would swear that he'll find her and get his revenge as he held his hip and wonders if this girl is related to Ophis. Back to Issei, who began to look at her. He just had a soft smile before drifting to sleep. Beside him was Ingvild, who was watching. Issei, it seems that it will be difficult for her to open up with us, he mentions to himself as his eyes start to fall asleep. The girl who was in his mind gazed at him for a few moments before she knew she surrounded by the other servants, making her taste all the different dishes. A few hours just passed as Issei began to wake up, looked at his surrounding. Before he knew it, he had a guest who was sitting on his lap. It was Melusine. Issei, that's when he noticed that he was being glared at by everyone. So are we there yet? Liza, we're here already. We were just waiting for you to wake up. You seem to be very tired. Merlin, it's natural. Our master reverted back to human, and he has to support us with so much magic despite the evil pieces giving us an increase on our reserves. We still need mana. Do not worry, you'll get accustomed to it eventually. Issei, okay, that's good to hear. Since we're here, let's get going gathering materials and then we can head back. Actually, I haven't visited Miss Lena. Ingvild, oh Lena Libra, I do want to visit her. So could we pass by there first before heading to your home? Issei, yeah, we'll go visit her soon. I want to ask her, how are the Black Keys holding up? They said they all began to start exiting the station as they noticed they were in the area. They did directions to the ruins. I kind folk told them where it was, and they all began to walk. They stayed for a nearby hotel while also gathering material, which seemed to be very fast with Semiramis, Merlin, Morgan. Hokusai item creation skill comes very in handy as they can gather all the material very fast. Semiramis, before it did take them days. Also, to make sure no one expects them to actually be constructing a huge entire building. Merlin bounded field, so to the outside perspective, it would look like it was normal. Boom. And just like that, the castle was finished, and they were already up in the air. Issei, holy grail, I cannot believe we just finished this in 3 days, but still, I gotta say this again, this thing is amazing. Morgan, I accept this flying castle. Semiramis, no, then master, since we finished my castle, where do you wish to go? Issei, to France. I got someone over there who did so much for me, the first saint. Okita, all aboard to France. Merlin, if I'm correct, France is the place where love is. Right. She said that, causing all the servants to look at Issei as he began to sigh. Looks like he's going to have to spend a little bit more in France before going home. Thanks for watching this video. You really enjoy this video. Like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow Hajime066 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. See you in the next